Breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
9 minutes before 8 is the time. We'll come back to our conversation about the migrant crisis, the headline that says it could be the one that topples Boris, and also your views, of course, these allegations of sleaze. Let's get some input on all of that from Oliver Dowden, who's called Conservative MP and chairman of the Conservative Party, in receipt of today's hospital pass and coming around various recording radio and TV studios.
It's not a hospital pass, Nick. It's a joy to talk to you every so often.
It's good to see you, Chairman. It's good to have you on. How sleaze-ridden is your party and the government? Good morning.
Good morning. The government is not sleaze-ridden. The government is actually focused with getting on with the job, and you saw that with the big progress we made in Glasgow, and you'll see that later today with further announcements on the booster programme from the Joint Committee on Vaccines, how we protect ourselves through the autumn and winter. I speak to the Prime Minister pretty much every day as party chairman, and I can assure you that's where his focus is.
Can you honestly use the words big progress in Glasgow? Progress I'll allow, but big progress, Chairman?
Yes, I think you can say there's big progress. Clearly, we didn't achieve all that we wanted to do, but I'll just give you a couple of things that give me confidence in saying that. First of all, if you go back to before Paris, the Paris Accords, we're on course for 4% global warming, 3% after Paris, now 2% after Glasgow. That's putting us on the right trajectory. Secondly, if you look, for example, say on deforestation, we're now at a position where 90% of the world's forests will be covered by a commitment to end deforestation by 2030. We've got coal on the agenda for the first time. So those are really big and important steps.
Why then, and without doubt the man had put in a hell of a shift, why did Alok Sharma appear emotional towards the end and admitted he didn't quite get where he wanted to get?
Well, in international negotiations, it's very frustrating that you don't manage to achieve all you want to do. You go up and down, and clearly he was frustrated, as the government was, that we didn't get to that commitment to phase out coal. It was phased down. But if you look across the spectrum, whether that's on each of the Prime Minister's tests, the cars, the trees, coal and so on, we made a really important progress. And helps us to get to that point where we secure our planet for our children and grandchildren, indeed our grandchildren's grandchildren. That's how important this stuff is.
You mentioned you speak to the Prime Minister, as you would as chairman of the Conservative Party, probably on a daily, if not more often than each day. What level of contrition has he shown for the way the so-called Owen Paterson affair was handled?
Well, I think the Prime Minister has been pretty clear. He said, we've made mistakes and we regret those mistakes. But what I think people want to hear, and I don't want to speak for your viewers, they can make their own minds up. But most people I talk to want the government to actually be focused with getting on with the job, and that is exactly what we're doing.
But how can it, quotes, get on with the job, Chairman, when it is mired in a fresh set of headlines for now? For instance, it's your colleague Jacob Rees-Mogg now, who Labour suggests we need an inquiry into the fact that he failed to declare £6 million in loans from a firm that he owns. It goes on and on.
Well, Nick, you know this with the way these news cycles work. That once there is a big story like there was over Owen Paterson, newspapers try and follow it up with lots of different other angles. Of course, all of those things will be looked at by the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, and appropriate action will be taken if necessary. But my big focus and the government's big focus is we're not being distracted by all these noises off. We want to make sure we actually get on with doing the jobs and delivering for improvements. I
hear you on that, Chairman. But if you didn't have some of your colleagues making nearly £6 million a week for a second job since 2009, and another senior colleague reportedly failing to declare £6 million in loans, the so-called news cycle would have nothing to feed it, would it, Chairman?
Well, all of those allegations will be looked into. I'm afraid I don't have the details of every. I would rather query whether someone made £6 million a week. I think that was.
Did I say a week? I do apologise.
Yes, you said week.
I do apologise.
I hadn't heard that one, Nick.
No, then I want to sign up for that. I do apologise. That's been his second job since 2009, so it's a number of years. But of course, that now needs to be investigated, doesn't it?
Well, again, I don't know all the details, but I believe that relates to dividends, and I'm sure Jacob will have declared those properly, and if there's been any shortcomings, that would be for the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards.
Can we move to the migrant crisis, which your colleague, Home Secretary Priti Patel, is going to be involved in conversations with her French counterpart and others? This seems, at the moment, tragically, to be a problem without a solution. You'll be aware that it is reported some souls actually lost their lives trying to get across the English Channel last week. Can you divine a solution?
Well, the solution lies in doing lots of different things. So one is continuing to work with the French authorities to stop people crossing. One of the big things we're doing is with our new immigration bill, and that will actually reduce incentives for people to come across. Just take two examples. Very, very tough sentences now for anyone involved in people smuggling, because remember, it's the criminal gang bosses who are the big beneficiaries of this. But then secondly, because people are going from one safe country, France, to another safe country, the UK, removing the automatic right to asylum. So we're tackling both the pull factors, which is the immigration system, and actually stopping people from being able to cross.
What level of cooperation are we enjoying from the French?
We continue to work closely with our French counterparts. You know what it's like dealing with the French. You get some things, you don't get other things. I think we both realise it's in neither country's interest to have this very dangerous crossing.
Could they be more
across
helpful?
The short strait? Well, they can always be more helpful, and that's why we continue to have discussions with them.
Okay. Other stories, the plans to build a new high-speed rail line from Manchester to Leeds have been shelved in favour of cheaper projects in the North and Midlands, so one paper reports. Is that true, Chairman?
Well, I believe there is going to be an announcement later this week on our national rail programme. The overall approach we're taking is making sure that in those parts of the north of England that don't have such strong transport links as you have in the south, we're improving those. And actually, we had a whole cabinet last week on Thursday on exactly this point about how we level up all parts of the United Kingdom, and it's absolutely crucial. People should be able to move between those northern conurbations in the same way you can do in the south. But the exact details of the announcement will be for later this week.
Okay, just coming back lastly to a couple of polls, and I know you're going to say that you're busy getting on with the job and the main poll will be as and when the next election, but the party has actually fallen behind Labour for the first time, I think, this year. That is down to these allegations of sleaze, isn't it?
Well, I don't actually know what drives individual polls. I think we've had this conversation a couple of months ago, Nick, and I'm afraid I have to say the same thing, because it is true that I certainly remember in the 2010 to 15 Parliament, I think at one point there was an enormous poll gap, at least in double figures. What people judged in 2015 and indeed in subsequent elections is that when you have the choice, they see a Conservative Party that is improving people's living standards. We've got great record job opportunities. We've got wage growth. Those are the things that actually, when the pencil hovers over which box to tick, it's a government that is delivering on those things that wins the right to serve again.
Will the Prime Minister deliver an apology for the way the Owen Paterson and other matters have been handled?
Well, I think the Prime Minister has already said that he's made mistakes.
Isn't it? That's an admission. That's not an apology.
I suppose the admission is he's admitted mistakes, and he has expressed regrets.
Of course, I think things could certainly have been handled better. Let me put it that way by me. We still haven't heard. Sorry seems to be the hardest word for the Prime Minister.
Well, he said that he regrets it. I think we're in danger of arguing on a pinhead on all of this. It's clear that we got things wrong. We've made that clear. He's made that clear. And actually, you'll see in the motion that's being considered by Parliament late this evening that we are now accepting the committee's report, and I'm sure that will be approved.
Last couple of things. I appreciate this is a little out of your brief. Can you give us any update on the events in Liverpool? I know that there's an ongoing police operation. Is it now classed as terror? Can you give us any information on that, Oliver Dowden?
Yes, well, I believe there have been 3 arrests under counter-terror legislation. So on that basis, it is being treated in that way. And clearly, my thoughts and prayers and those of the government are with those affected by this dreadful attack.
And lastly, it wasn't that long ago that you enjoyed the brief, of course, of being in charge of culture, media and sports. You will know that England are just a point away from qualifying into Qatar. The game takes place tonight in San Marino, and you'll be wishing, of course, them on. But the footballers will then discuss how to publicly protest against Qatar's distressing human rights record. What form do you think that protest should take, presuming England does get across the line?
Well, I very much hope England gets across the line. I think
they can't beat San
we'd be
Marino,
pretty
honestly,
disappointed if they don't get across the
Party
line.
of world football, wouldn't they? They couldn't beat that. But anyway, do go on.
No, don't tempt me down that analogy. I have to be completely honest with you. I don't know what. I'm no longer cultured. I don't know what form that protest is going to take. That's a matter for
But
them.
you would be in support of it. Of course, we want to take football to Qatar. We want to have a tremendously successful tournament. But we also need to let them know that their record on human rights needs to be addressed. Mr. Dowden.
Well, the government doesn't flinch from raising human rights issues, and we raise human rights issues with Qatar, but we also have a lot of cooperation with Qatar as well. There is an important relationship that we enjoy in the Middle East with them.
But if they take the knee, they could surely do something else. Couldn't they wear something on their shirt or whatever it might be? I don't know.
Well, that's up to them.
Oliver Dowden, thank you, Chairman of the Conservative Party, appearing here on LBC. We're at 1 minute after 8. News is next.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 8 o'clock, 3 men have been arrested under the Terrorism Act after a taxi exploded outside a